So, of course, mango season's over, and after mango season, we trimmed all of the mango trees. A huge job. Then we chipped up what we trimmed. So there's piles of chips all around, and we spread most of them already. And the trees are looking good. We trimmed them, they've gotten their new leaves, and they look like they're pretty much set for anything, which is a good thing because right now there is a Category 5 hurricane. That's Hurricane Milton that's in the Gulf of Mexico. It is unfortunately going to hit the west coast of Florida, and it's going to be pretty destructive. The fortunate thing for us is a couple things. One is that our mango trees have been trimmed and they are ready for a lot of wind. And the second thing that we are very fortunate with is that the hurricane, if it's still a hurricane by the time it gets to the east coast of Florida, it will be a pretty weak hurricane. I hope the people on the west coast of Florida make it through this hurricane, but it's just, of course, out of our hands. But I was thinking with just the general topic of hurricanes, I sort of wanted to go through a few things that we do when a hurricane is going to strike, truly tropical. As I said, we're very fortunate this year. We do not expect a lot of damage, really, if any. Sometimes there's, a branch here and there that might come off, but the trees are short, branches are sturdy, and most importantly, the winds are not projected to be that strong in this part of Florida. So hurricanes and strong wind events do, pop up practically any time of year. It's most common at this point in the season, but we have seen very strong winds in January and February, sometimes in spring also. So there are some things that you can do to minimize the damage to your trees, and so let's go take a look at a few of those things. Here's a tree that might look familiar to you. This is Namdok Mai, and I am top working it to another variety. So as you probably recall, one of the things that I do when we have fresh leaves and projected or anticipated strong winds is that I just tear off some of the very fresh leaves because they are very vulnerable to wind. Also, this would-be scion is very fragile, the whole thing. So if you take off some of the leaf of each leaf or some leaves completely, that decreases the amount of surface area that the wind can push against, and so just a better outcome for fresh grafts like that. Actually earlier today I actually put a couple of new grafts on this tree. There's one right here, and new grafts should be fine because they won't put out new leaves for a few weeks at the earliest, and so by then hurricane season will probably be over, at least the worst of hurricane season. So decreasing the surface area of the leaves is a good thing. Also trimming back leaves completely. This is all fresh stuff up here. You can just cut that off, and then you have mature leaves that are easier. It's easier for them to withstand the wind. So a couple things that you can do like that. As I said, I've been using this opportunity with no sun and pretty nice temperatures to do some other things outside. And so one of those things was to graft some more onto this particular tree. But another thing I've done is I've actually taken advantage of the projected rainfall and planted a couple of papayas. Here's one right here. And with papayas, that's the only plant I can think of that I actually don't pull the roots apart. They get pretty root bound in the pots that they're in. They do great, growing fast and everything like that. But papayas are sort of sensitive to breaking up the roots, and so I just try and keep them all intact, and in a few weeks they probably are going to start sending the roots out to beyond where the pot was. I happen to like this particular the papaya fruit that this plant came from. That of course planted the seed from the fruit, and so I have planted I think 3 of these earlier today, and we're expecting to get, I think it's about 10 more inches of rain, and so that should be great for the new plants and for the other plants. So you might have some potted plants and you might wonder, what do I do with the potted plants when a big storm is coming? Well, if there's a lot of wind, the best thing I think you can do is simply put the tree on its side. So very, there's not much wind at ground level, and you've tipped it over already, so wind is not going to tip it over willy-nilly in some weird way. So just set your trees on the ground like that. Some people cluster them all together on the ground, but just make sure that they're watered well. We are expecting a lot of rain, but the plant would not, benefit from the rain when it's on the side. So before you put it on its side, water the plant, put it down, and you can, if you have several plants, you can make sort of a cluster of them on the ground, and then after the hurricane or whatever, big wind event passes, simply put them back up, and if the soil has dried out in that time, of course water them right away. So as you can tell, these are 7-gallon mango trees, or mango trees in 7-gallon pots, and they are packed very closely. That helps even when they're standing up for them to be protected. Whatever wind there is will be sort of not hitting only one tall tree and making it fall down. There's just a lot of community resistance to high wind. In fact, we have some in-ground trees. Here's a black sapote, and right over there is a big mango tree, well, medium-sized mango tree, and those also help protect these plants from especially west wind coming out of the west. There's just a lot of other trees in other parts of the grove that can protect neighbor trees and such. So these trees I'm not worried about for 2 reasons. The first one being the winds are not forecasted to be higher than 40 miles per hour. And the second reason is that, they've got this buddy system where they all, this big group helps protect, the members of the group. So here are a lot of mango branches. These used to be on the top of this tree. They were next to the tallest branches up there, and I decided, because of possible wind, that it would be a good time to cut as much of these as possible, or as many of these as possible. I need to get another ladder to get the rest of them cut, but these were a good start. Basically, the branches, any growth that's in the highest part of the trees is most vulnerable to the wind. And so taking these off before the wind happens is a good idea. And also, whatever branches you take off, it's okay to leave them on the ground. The dangerous projectile branches kind of thing happen when a branch is on top of the tree and you get a very strong wind. It rips off and then takes it sometimes a pretty long way, and sometimes they can smash into like your house or something like that. So it's we trimmed this tree already earlier, but it just grew fast, so just trimming most of it again, the highest parts, just in case we have a wind event. Right now they've downgraded the expectations of the strength of the wind that we will experience, probably 38 to 40 miles per hour, but still we've got a few branches that could break. They're small enough where they wouldn't really cause any harm. If they did, they wouldn't cause any harm to, say, the neighbor's house or something like that. But if you have time and you're expecting some wind, it's good to take off the highest branches of your tree, and that way you are protecting your tree against the worst damage possible. As I said, it's fortunate for us that Hurricane Milton is not really going to dramatically impact the east coast of Florida as far as the forecast is concerned right now. But there are always things that you can do to make your trees a little bit more able to withstand high winds. And so as soon as you hear that there's going to be a big wind event, try to take some steps to protect your plants and your young grafts.